Welcome, dear listener. Settle into the stillness of this winter night. Take a long breath. You're safe here, in this calm winter glow. The world is quiet, the night is soft, and the Christmas tree whispers its secrets. Listen closely. A tiny fairy has a story to share. It was Christmas Eve. Snow drifted down softly over the quiet little town, settling like powdered sugar on rooftops and window ledges. Inside a small, cozy house on the edge of the lane lived a little girl named Clara. She had rosy cheeks, warm eyes, and a heart full of excitement, but this year she was alone. Her mother had gone to work long before the sun set. Her father was away in another town, working through the holiday. And Clara, wrapped in her tiny red sweater, sat beside the Christmas tree in the living room. It was beautiful, decorated with strings of popcorn, tiny bells, and paper stars she had made herself. But something was missing. The fairy. The shining fairy that always stood on top of the tree. The fairy her mother placed every year. The fairy that made their whole house feel complete. Clara searched inside every box. She looked behind chairs and under cushions. She opened cupboards and drawers. But the fairy was nowhere. Finally, she sat on the floor beside the tree, hugging her knees tightly to her chest. "It doesn't feel like Christmas without her," she whispered. The house was very quiet. Too quiet. Outside, the wind twirled snowflakes in the streetlights. Inside, the tree lights glowed softly, like tiny warm hearts beating in the winter night. Clara blinked away a tear. Just then, the lights on the tree flickered once. Then again. And then something magical happened. A gentle shimmer gathered near the top branch. A glow like silver moonlight began to bloom between the ornaments. Clara's eyes widened as a tiny figure stepped out of the shimmer. Delicate wings, a sparkling gown, and hair as soft as golden thread. It was a fairy. A real one. She floated gracefully down, her wings whispering like snow on glass. "Why are you crying, child?" the fairy asked in a soft, musical voice. Clara wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I lost a fairy for the tree," she murmured. "The one Mama always puts on top. And Mama isn't home. Papa is far away, and the house is cold. And there's nothing ready for Christmas. No food, nothing. Christmas doesn't feel like Christmas." The fairy touched Clara's cheek. "Then let us fix that." And with a wave of her tiny hand, the room glowed brighter. Suddenly, tap, tap, tap. Tiny feet scampered across the floor. Elves. Little green-coated elves with cheerful faces and bright eyes jumped into the room as if through invisible doors. They bowed to the fairy, then whirled into action like playful whirlwinds. Some swept the floors, making the wooden boards shine. Some dusted the shelves until they glowed. Some hung garlands and ribbons that seemed to appear out of thin air. Then more magic happened. In the kitchen, there came clattering, sizzling, bubbling sounds. Golden lights spilled under the door. When Clara peeked in, tiny goblins in aprons, kind, friendly goblins, the kitchen sort, were stirring pots, baking pies, frosting cakes, and singing little Christmas rhymes. A warm smell filled the house: cinnamon, roasted apples, butter, warm bread. Clara's eyes glowed. "It feels alive," she whispered. "It feels like Christmas." the fairy corrected gently. Then she lifted her hand again. A soft ripple of magic drifted out into the cold night, soft as a wish carried on the wind. Far away, Clara's mother was finishing her work. Suddenly, without warning, her heart fluttered. Go home. The thought came like a warm whisper. She couldn't explain it, only that she needed to be with Clara. She rushed to pack up, her steps unusually quick. At the same moment, miles away, Clara's father paused while speaking to a customer. He felt a strange tug in his chest, an urgent feeling of home, of warmth, of his little girl waiting. Without thinking twice, he closed his ledger, wrapped his coat tightly around himself, and set off for home. The fairy watched the snow swirl outside the window and smiled. Now wait, she said softly. Minutes later, the door creaked open. Mama! Clara cried, running into her mother's arms. Her mother stopped short. The house was glowing, warm, decorated, filled with the smell of Christmas. Clara's cheeks were rosy. The tree sparkled. Soft music played. The dinner table was set. How did all this happen? Her mother breathed. Before Clara could answer, another knock on the door. She opened it, and there stood her father, breathless, snow in his hair, eyes shining with surprise and joy. Papa! Clara cried. He picked her up in his arms, laughing. I don't know why, but something told me I must come home. Christmas doesn't feel right without my family. The fairy hovered near the tree, invisible to the grown-ups, but Clara saw her, and the fairy gave her a tiny wink. That night, the family sat down for the most delicious Christmas Eve meal they had ever tasted. The elves and goblins vanished quietly, leaving behind warmth and magic in every corner of the house. Clara looked up at the shining star on the top of the tree, the fairy's glow resting inside it like a tiny heartbeat of light. And she knew deep in her heart, Christmas miracles always find their way home, especially when a child believes.